Greetings, everyone, and welcome to the 9th edition of Cinema Effect. I'm Zach, and I'm joined by Paul Thomas Anderson's number one fanboy, Liam.
Hello.
I might alternate between that and JC, but that's the last that the nicknames get mentioned today. And I'm joined by my fellow Hans Zimmer appreciator, Jaden.
G'day. Was that quiet again? I feel like it was quiet again this week. I'm not sure.
Nah. Last week was especially standout quiet. You know,
right.
I physically reacted to how quiet last week was. But no, that was fine.
Good.
Well, this is Cinema Effect, the podcast where we review and talk about a different movie every single week. Today's show completely contradicts that. But anyway, the show posts every Monday, and you can find us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Please subscribe and all those things. Leave us a rating. That'd be awesome. Remember to submit your questions, thoughts, reviews for next week's film. We'll read them out at the end of the show, as always. And our question of the week this week is going to be, what is your favourite bad movie? What's a film that is just bad, okay? What's a movie that you recognise is just trash on some level, but you still enjoy the hell out of it? I want to hear your answers. And like I said, we'll read them at the end of the show next week. I think that's a good question. I think that's a fun one.
Yeah.
But let's get into this week's TV show for the first time. Who knows how often we do TV shows? I guess it just, I don't know, depends what's coming out, what we're interested in. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know how often of an occurrence it'll be. This week we're doing Westworld Season 3, and the data dump for it's kind of a bit different and weird. I don't know. It's a bit shorter to everyone's satisfaction. So I'll get into it. The show, this season of Westworld, of course I should say, finished airing in the US on the 3rd of May 2020, just 5 days ago, in our time, I guess. Created by Lisa Joy and Jonathan Nolan, who, of course, the lead writers on the series as well. The music was composed by Ramin Djawadi, the GOAT, who also composed Game of Thrones, of course. The show stars Evan Rachel Wood as Dolores, Thandie Newton as Maeve, Aaron Paul as Caleb, Jeffrey Wright as Bernard, Tessa Thompson as Charlotte. I guess I'll just go with that. No spoilers yet. And Ed Harris as William, or the Man in Black. There is no official information concerning what the budget of this season was. However, season 1's budget was $100 million, which is ridiculous. And I would imagine this season would be around that, probably a bit higher, maybe. So we'll kind of go with that $100 million kind of estimate, I guess. And a little bit of, I've got no real trivia because it's hard to find specific trivia just for the season. But a bit of an interesting thing, I guess, with the budget is the fact that all the lead actors, as far as I could tell, were equally paid $250,000 per episode that they were in this season. Making a fair bit of bank there. Good for them. And the general show synopsis is set at the intersection of the near future and the reimagined past. Explore a world in which every human appetite can be indulged without consequence. That synopsis doesn't really apply to this season as much, I don't think, but just to summarize what the show's about in general, I guess. So Westworld is kind of, I should kind of introduce it a little bit if you've never seen it for this kind of non-spoilery section before we dive in. It's based in the future, where, you know, there's this theme park where you can go and hang out in Old West times, and everyone's a robot there, and you can just do whatever the hell you want, basically. And there's these characters and everything going on with how the parks run and the guests there, etc. So yeah, no, I think that's a pretty good explanation. Would you guys agree? Was that all right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. So, like I mentioned last week, we're going to do a non-spoilery section first, just because, the season of TV is quite long and it's hard to commit to. So we'll try and talk spoiler-free for as long as we can. I don't know how long we'll last. 10 minutes maybe, could be 20 minutes. I got no idea how long we'll last, but we'll give it a go. Guys, how did you feel about season 3 of Westworld? No spoilers yet. Liam, why don't you start us off?
Yeah, I thought it was good. I thought it was better than season 2, at least. I'm not sure about season 1. I haven't seen it in a while. But yeah, I just like the fresh story, you know. Talk about this without spoilers.
Yeah, sorry, it's hard.
Just the it's very different, and I think it sort of shows its ideas better this season, and new characters. I like the new characters, Caleb, of course, and yeah.
Well, I think, yeah. Sorry to be clear with the non-spoiler part. I think like stuff that's in trailers and that's obvious. I think we can talk about here. Fine. I don't want to be so vague. So like, I think what you're talking about, Fitzy, when you're talking about the difference in the story this time around is the fact that none of this takes place in the park and that we're all in the modern world. I think that we can talk about that. I don't think that's a problem. Is that what you're referring to? The setting?
Yeah, just the new
Yeah.
world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. How about you, Jan?
Yeah, no, I thought it was great. I mean, I think it's been consistent across all seasons. I think season 2 may have had a lapse early on, but quickly fixed itself. But I think it's a great show and it's maintained that throughout. And like this season, moving out of the park and into the future, it allows for more. It allows for the show to be more creative, technically, because within the park you could have whatever ideas you want. It's all constrained in that, and but with this, it allows you to have episodes like episode 5 where you have these variations in styles, and it allows for it to be a lot more broader in terms of like a creative style, and I really like that this season.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, the show, yeah, the choice to go outside of the park, it was, if this show was going to continue, it's inevitable. I do think, again, no spoilers. I'm curious to see like where the next seasons go, because in a way, it kind of felt like leaving the park this season. You kind of, I don't know, maximizing your potential as far as the setting goes. I don't know, like how else can you step it up from here? I don't know, like go to like Mars or some shit, um. But regardless, I really liked this season of Westworld. I like it better than season 2. I don't think it's got anything on season 1. And I mean, I think season 1's just incredible. I think it's kind of untouchable. So I don't really necessarily expect um, any season of the show to touch season 1. But I enjoyed it better than season 2. I agree 100% with you, Liam, about how the variation in the setting just brought something really new to the show this year, I think. Just immediately from the premiere, I loved the premiere and seeing these characters get to interact in this in completely new environment that we're slowly getting introduced as the audience to the new elements of this future, what this world looks like now. I think that's really cool, and obviously the budget's just ridiculous. Like, I just can't believe like how much this show must cost to make, especially when the visual effects are really awesome and I don't know, the whole world feels fully realized, which I love as well. But yeah, and the performances, the character growth, all that stuff's just the show's just super enjoyable for me overall. I look forward to watching it every week. I did. Um, I do think there are a little bit things I don't like. I think the writing kind of takes on too much at times. Like the show struggles, I think, to explore it tries to explore so many different philosophical concepts and ideas and conflicting perspectives at once. And I think a lot of the time it struggles to kind of carry that, where dialogue that should feel really clever and interesting often comes across like gibberish. Like I don't know. Yeah, we'll get more into spoilers, I guess. But
I was gonna say I felt like this season alone was like if like because it's always been a pretty intelligent show, but like it used it give away to its themes and ideas by hinting at it, and it give you bits and pieces, but it never like outright tells you what's going on. Whereas with this season, it felt like a lot more of characters discussing, oh, this is like this and that, so it means it's like this. It felt a lot more, in your face. Here's what's happening,
there were still elements where you weren't quite sure what was happening, especially mainly, I guess, with Caleb. And Dolores a bit too. But there were elements where you didn't know exactly what was going on. But you're right, it did seem a bit more. You can kind of take what's going on at face value. Definitely better than season 2. I also don't like, just as a general point. There's not really a lot to discuss here, but I don't know. Like the action sequences are kind of like they're fine. They're kind of silly to watch, but a lot of it feels very video gamey. Where there's a extended sequences where you're watching characters kind of just go through areas like from one shootout to another, and all the enemies have like the worst aim ever. You know, like there's the scene in the last episode, no spoilers, but where Caleb kind of just like he's in one environment and there's a shootout, then he kind of walks out and there's another shootout, and then walks through to another shootout. It's kind of like I feel like I'm like watching like a Call of Duty campaign or something. Um, so I think some of that had a little bit to be desired, left a little bit to be desired. But one of my favorite things about the show is Ramin Djawadi's score. It always has been. God, I love it so much. Just like getting these awesome visuals mixed with his music is just a joy. Taking the story completely out of it to watch every week.
Mm.
I loved it so much, especially the opening scene of the premiere where I love that scene where Dolores goes and like kills the dude who like did shit to her in the park. Just kind of is a really good way to introduce the audience to this new environment. What the characters' motivations are in this new world, and I mean, I love like the it's like spammed all the time in the show, but like the badass like Dolores Terminator music that's playing, I like it's so great. Do you guys have any thoughts on the score?
I think it's Jawadi's best work, and I think Westworld always has been. Like, I appreciate what he's done for Game of Thrones and like some of the other films he's done, but Westworld's always felt like a league beyond for me, and I think that season 3 he did an even better job than what he's done in the past.
Yeah, I thought it was very good this season, and I like how you've got different like just modern songs that are kind of put in the orchestra or like different. You know what I mean? Like it's like kind of
Oh yeah,
they kind of change it a bit to techno or like violin or something. It's cool.
I was gonna say that I love the instrumental versions. They in season 2, they had an instrumental version of Heart Shaped Box by Nirvana, and this season you have like instrumentals of like Wicked Games, and and you have this. It's really brilliant, like the way he converts those and to fit the setting well.
I've got there's certain moments where the music really shines as well. Certain spoilery moments, but overall, like you hear the different variations. I don't know. I don't notice the covers as much as you guys do, but there are certain. He does variations of the main theme all the time, and I feel like that main theme can be used in like infinite ways, in infinite contexts, and is just always impactful. And I think that's a testament to it. General question, just out of curiosity. Because I think it's kind of interesting to think about. How far in the future do you guys think that this world is? Because I was thinking, like, is it like 100 years, maybe? I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah, it wasn't like 2050. I thought 56, but yeah, around there.
Oh shit! They actually said it. Oh, I didn't even notice this. When did they say that?
I read it on IMDb. That's.
I think it was in like the first or second episode, maybe. I don't know.
Oh shit! Oh, well, there you go. That that answered my question pretty conveniently. That was good. Let's talk about the characters just for a little bit. I want to give a shout out to Tessa Thompson because actually, you know what? We can spoil this because it actually happens at the end of season 2. But she obviously the Charlotte character dies in the season finale, and so then for this entire season, she is playing a version of Dolores, and I think Tessa Thompson is brilliant in the show, and she has just that great layers of acting where she does a great job of playing someone who's trying to play the character that she played. I don't know if that makes sense. And there's plenty of standout scenes with her as well, and I think that's really cool. Do you guys have a favorite character this season or a favorite performance of any kind?
Yeah, I don't know. I think all the acting is good, but nothing really stood out.
I really like Vincent Cassell because I thought his character was
Yes.
really really interesting, and I think he always puts in a good performance. And I was completely like entranced by him whenever he was on screen. I think it was really great this season.
Yeah, I'm really glad you mentioned him. Because he plays I'm not even going to bother with the first name, but he plays Serac, who's the new main. He is the I think only the real major new character this season, and
Sorry,
he's the main
is Aaron
antagonist
Paul
of
not
the
a
season.
major character?
Shit, you're right. My apologies. Sorry, Aaron. I'm sorry. You're absolutely right. But no, he plays the main antagonist of the season, and he's got a great screen presence. Like we're introduced to him in the second episode, and immediately I'm like, "Yo, this guy's real." And then he's a mainstay throughout, and his backstory and his motivations and his choices, and I know, I loved everything about that character as well. That's a really good good shout. Were there any other but regardless of performances though, were there any other characters that you prefer over the others, Fitzy?
Caleb is probably someone that comes to mind. I mean,
Yeah.
he's the first kind of human character we're really rooting for, I guess. But I don't know. I just love Aaron Paul as a actor. I guess as a
Someone that needs a shout out, although he's not a major part of season 3, is the guy, the main story head, the narrative head of Westworld,
Oh yeah,
Lee Seidel.
yeah, that's right. Yeah,
He's such a great character. I loved him in season 1 because he's vulgar and he's a bit of fun, but he's not exactly someone to be rooting for. And then season 2 kind of changes that, where he kind of gets this hero's redemption type story, and then they're reintroducing back in season 3, and I think he's still he kind of maintains like the best of both parts of season 1 and 2. And it's not a major role this season, but like he's still a great character to be to have.
definitely. And I think the show does a really good job of continually bringing back characters, that feel like that maybe their use has kind of been expired in other seasons, but still bringing them back in kind of interesting and impactful ways. The same happened with Hector. He was brought back for 2 episodes, um, and when what's her name, bloody Clementine, was in that one episode too. I feel like the show does a good job of when these characters pop up again, you're like, oh, that's cool, but they don't really um, feel the need to shoehorn them into the story, if that makes sense, and just kind of include them in subtle and interesting ways. My favorite character um, is definitely William. Um, Ed Harris is just terrific. I love Ed Harris, dude, and I actually love the less is more, I guess, approach they took this season with him, because he's not. I think is he in 3 or 4 episodes? He's in less than half of them, I think. Um, but he's awesome. God, I love that character, and I love everything they did with that character this season to kind of grow his arc. Because while I think his journey in seasons 1 and 2 was just awesome, and I love everything that happened towards the end of season 2 with him, and then how that very much drives him this season. Um, I love all that stuff for sure. Except I don't really love. I definitely want to talk about it. I don't love where they leave him this season. I loved everything about him until his final scene this season. I found was like, okay, that's kind of interesting, I guess. The main takeaway for me this season um, was the fact that this entire conflict that we're watching is just at the heart of this just conflicting ideologies. That's really all it is. And how Serac, who is meant to be the villain, is kind of like, from a certain perspective, probably even the popular perspective, the good guy, really, because he's just trying to basically save the world, is basically all he's trying to do. And the way, and the backstory they give him for why he's this way, and the stuff with his brother, I really like all that stuff as well, and it all playing into the kind of the free will shit that the show loves to go on about a lot.
Yeah, I think the showrunners did a good job, because like the concept that Serac embodies, it is one that I think most people would find preferable, but they found a good way to kind of still villainize him in a way that the audience can root against him. So I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, absolutely, because he overall, like, his objective seems, I think pretty fair and pretty reasonable to the majority of people, I would think.
Mm.
But then, yeah, you're right. It's the little choices and the obviously he just has this villainous presence, but other than that, like, we see him, kill people with his own hands, and we see him do all kinds of like heinous, like, actions to get to that point, which, yeah, like you're saying, does um definitely contribute to him being the villain as well. Absolutely.
Well, this season represents like a major shift, in themes for the show, because the first two are very much, akin to that like Blade Runner ideas, or like, what's more human than human, and these AIs, what do they represent, and like, who are we to say they can't have this? Whereas, season 3 kind of goes and explores these Orwellian concepts in a lot more depth, and like the AI, and the just like their like struggle is kind of like pushed to the back a little bit. Like, it's still very present, but it feels like this whole concept of George Orwell's like, his big brother, the observed society type thing. That feels like what's the the main comment for this season.
Really?
That's what I felt.
I feel like it's the same theme of free will, just kind of expanded.
Yeah, like they still kept that in there, but I feel like it was kind of more of a it was more of a context just to keep to elevate that the ideas of this surveyed society.
I honestly, I feel like the show is touching on kind of everything at once, and like I mentioned, it kind of, I think it works to its favor and its detriment at times. Where the free will stuff is super obvious. It's like the main, like it's literally all Dolores says. And then we of course get um the whole AI debate. I mean, that shit was in previous seasons obviously too, but the whole thing of machines, are they conscious, are they human, all that kind of shit we still get. We also get a lot of stuff like you were saying, Jaden, about the society shit. We also get a ton of stuff regarding the nature of our reality. The idea that the characters are existing, certain characters in the simulation kind of level for the hosts as well.
Mm.
So yeah, so no, but all those kind of very basic philosophical concepts being explored all at the same time. But would you guys agree that the free will one is kind of favored, or I don't know? I feel like it kind of does a good job of doing all of them.
Yeah, I feel like the free will is the main theme.
Yeah, I mean it's on the poster.
Maybe it's just because it was a new concept that I focused on it more, and that's why I kind of took more away from that. But they're both still there, and all the themes are still very well done. But it's just what I took away more, I guess.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And there's a lot to take away from it because throughout the whole thing, but in the early episodes, that lots of the, apart from just getting a cool look at a potential future for our world, like you were saying, Jan, but another main thing I took away from it was seeing the parallels between Caleb's life and the life, because he, acts in the show essentially the role of the human perspective, which we've never really gotten, and what it's like to be a human in that futuristic setting, and to see the really obvious parallels between him and the host, and once again, kind of blurring the lines of what's the difference between us and the hosts. We're just being controlled in the same way. And I really enjoyed that aspect of it as well. And I think it's explored. I think that's probably, I think Caleb's character really only exists to serve that kind of thematic, to serve as a thematic device in that way. And then also into the finale with the free will stuff as well. But I think his purpose as a character is super important for the show because we've never really gotten that human perspective really outside of just the executives of the park. All right, let's get into it's spoiler time. So last warning. Actually, sorry, before we even do that, just for people who want to skip spoilers, um, and to kind of help the audience decide if they should skip the non-spoilers or not, do we recommend the season before we go into specifics? Do you recommend that people actually watch the season and then not listen to our spoiler section till later, or do you think that who gives a shit, just listen to it?
I mean, if you have the intention to watch it, I'd definitely skip over this. But if you don't have, if in your mind you think I'm not going to watch this, then stick with it.
So yeah, well, but then for someone on the fence though, you would recommend the season? You would recommend the show?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Maybe, I don't know. I kind of think it's good, but not like to that level where I would just recommend it to everyone.
I get you. I'm kind of with you. I don't think it's essential television this season. I think everyone needs to watch season 1. I think that's some of the best TV I've ever seen. But yeah, whether or not you want to go to season 3, I guess would depend on how much you enjoy the previous seasons. But I would personally recommend that if what we've been talking about, this kind of sci-fi shit interests you at all, I would recommend watching the show and not listening. But if you know you're never going to watch it or you have seen it, then yeah, stick around, I reckon. Okay, let's get into the spoiler zone. Where do we start in the spoiler zone? Let's start with just a huge spoiler. Who wants to chuck out a spoiler? Let's do it.
Alright, so I don't know if I don't understand this or what, but like, so
Fair enough.
Sirach, why can't they just like work with Serac with the Sublime and get everyone onto the Sublime. You know what I mean? Like, why is it why is that opposing to him? The idea of putting everyone into the Sublime.
When you say everyone, do you just mean who do you mean?
Well, I mean, yeah, they got the hosts that are getting put into the Sublime, but I assume that they'll be able to get like humans uploaded as well. I don't know.
Oh, I guess so, but I don't. I mean, I guess so. I don't know if the show really does it. I don't know if it really introduces that as kind of as a element to the plot that any of the characters want. You know,
But
like
like,
does anyone who
no,
wants the humans to be
but like
uploaded?
in the last episode, isn't the whole point that Dolores wants to? They know that humans will die in the real world, in the physical world, but they want to put everyone, including humans, like onto the Sublime.
I didn't think so. Did you get that, Jen? I'm not sure.
No, I don't think so.
Really? Well, I don't get like. Well, what do you guys just think of the last episode? Because maybe I'm like misunderstanding it.
Yeah. Look, I feel like there's going to be a lot of this where like one of us say like something and then we're like the other two like didn't get it at all. From the last episode, was probably my least favorite of the season. Um, I kind of feel like the whole thing was the entire season. Dolores to the audience seems hell bent on um, destroying human civilization, and her plan to do so is by taking out Rehoboam. Is that how you say it? Rehoboam,
Homer?
the bull god thing.
Rehoboam.
Um, oh shit! Wait, Rehoboam? What am I saying
Yeah,
wrong?
there you go. There you go.
Rehoboam. Okay. So I was saying it with the e, like the way it's spelled. Anyway, god damn it. So that's kind of what seems like happening to the audience. But then I guess
Yeah.
at the end, I just took it as like, oh, subversion. Like, no, the whole time she wasn't necessarily going to do that. She just wanted to get Caleb, get everything to unfold so Caleb could get to the point where he could choose whether or not um, to either destroy human civilization or let everyone be free and not enact the extinction events. I guess.
Yeah, but
Am I right about that?
no, but like by setting everyone free, by getting rid of Rehoboam, that sets the end of human civilization in order to happen. Like they basically said that now the end of human civilization is going to happen, and I think they said something along the lines of, but we can like make it better or like put everyone into the Sublime or something.
No,
Like, I
wasn't
don't
it like,
know.
for a new world to be born, this one has to burn? Something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah, that idea. But I kind of see it because, like, it's this idea that the world will burn, but, like, I don't think it's gonna, like, completely destroy itself. I think that, a lot will be destroyed. But in the end, I think because there are those ones that, the algorithm couldn't predict. So, if you've got millions, billions of those, however many there are, then you can't predict that the world is actually going to end accurately because these people, these unknowns might move differently to stop it. And I think that's what I thought the show kind of wanted us to think.
So then, what was Caleb's choice at the end then? Because I thought that the choice was his whole thing was he can either like
Detroit.
literally wipe humans off the face of the earth, or he can um, set them free to basically, like you said, enact all this bullshit that will then allow them to still have the potential to
No.
um, still exist in the future.
He's got the choice between having this robo home like predict and like guide everybody and the world not ending, or he turns off Rehoboam, which he does, and the world ends in like 100 to 150 years. So basically, they're saying like the world's going to end, but everyone will be free and will be able to do something better. And I think they were talking about the Sublime at some point, because otherwise they're just saying we're going to let the world end, which is like I don't know.
Okay, this is actually messing with my whole interpretation of the season because I never got the idea that he had the I never thought that he could make the choice to just leave Rehoboam, oh Jesus, on. You know, I thought either way, like that dude, that ball thing was screwed.
Well, no, if they left it on, then it would have if they left it on and kept following its orders, like Serac, then the world would be fine, but no one would have
But
any.
no, but it wouldn't though.
No, that's the whole point. The world would have been continued. It would have not have ended, but everyone wouldn't have had free will. Everyone would still be controlled by the system.
Hang on, but no, they make a point to say multiple times that either way, extinction is inevitable. Like, don't they have? Isn't there that scene in it's like in episode 5 or 6 or some shit where they literally have like Sirach's like talking with his bro, and they're looking at Rehoboam's like predictions, and they're like constantly talking about like, oh, either way, like this shit's screwed, like eventually.
But wasn't that with the unpredictables? And wasn't that like why they took it out of the equation?
Well, I thought that's right, and then that's why he took the measures to mess with the outliers and try and alter them. But then I thought, then regardless of him doing that, though, it still wasn't working, and the graph wouldn't change.
No, I think once he got rid of the outliers, he basically had control and could stop the collapse of the population.
I
So
think
Do we know that though?
I think Aaron Paul's choice at the end of
yeah,
the season was because like he had control over Rehoboam, so it's whether or not he uses it to rebuild the world or he lets the world rebuild itself. That's kind of what I thought.
Okay. So are you saying he does? Are you saying he does at the end, like, let the extinction events play out?
yeah, basically.
But I think the point is that
That's
the
what I think.
extinction is not going to happen because humans are they have the choice to change, and that their choice now is going to set them free from extinction. I think
That was turning Rehoboam off was theoretically part of the extinction event. So you turn it off, humans are gone in 150 years. But I think what Jane is saying, that the last episode's thesis is basically, if you turn it off, people have more choice, and so they can change that fate. But
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
yeah,
I get you. The idea is that turning Rehoboam off, the world's going to go to shit, but humans have the choice to not follow its predicted graph. It says that shit's going to go down and that we're screwed in 150 years, but that now that it's off, it doesn't matter. We can change that.
but I don't agree with like having like more choice or whatever, like changing that. Like surely that would be factored into the system. I don't know.
But I guess so. But then I guess that's kind of the point of like human free will is stronger than any system that the system can never predict that. I guess you know. like I mean, yeah, I'm kind of with you, Fitzy, where I kind of disagree with that idea, but I guess just that is the perspective, that is that point of view.
Well, the argument is that like the free will change it or whatever, but I mean, I feel like the system
Right.
predicted that this will just lead to the extinction. Maybe you guys disagree, but I feel like they were saying that humans would go to some kind of digital space, like that was Dolores's plan. But
Okay, well, yeah, no, let's transition into that though, because um the stuff with the sublime and the key, because the key to the sublime is one of the key kind of MacGuffins throughout the season, and we learn kind of, I think it's in episode 6 or something, that Bernard's got a role to play in Dolores's plan, and then we learn that role is the fact that he actually has the key and he didn't know it. Um, on a side, Bernard is kind of, I really like Jeffrey Wright, but he's one of my least favorite characters just because in literally all the time he never knows what's happening. He's never on top of anything. He's always the character that has to react to, like, he's like as confused as us, which I guess is the point. But it's just kind of strange where in season 1 he doesn't know he's a machine. In season 2 he doesn't know where he is. In season 3 he doesn't know what role you know what I mean. He's just kind of always lost. So it's kind of hard to get invested in with him. But anyway, sorry. But then his final post-credit scene where he is in Sublime, and it seemed like he was there for a period of time. Um, I didn't really understand the impact of that at all. Do you guys take something away from that I'm not?
I don't know. I feel like they will explore it in later seasons, but I guess he was just in that heaven for a while.
I mean, I feel like, yeah, the post credit of season 2 is also kind of bizarre. I guess they just kind of want to leave us on a bit of an interesting note because, yeah, I don't really know. Um, that feels more like a season 4 tease more than anything. I don't really know why I should care, about that. So okay, William. I love me some William. All right. I loved everything with him in season 2, and spoilers for season 2, but we're in the spoiler section, so what are you doing? He kills his own daughter, and he kind of has this whole crisis about it afterwards, which we see unfold to its um, uh, maximum level, I guess, in episode 4, where he like can't he's completely lost touch of his reality. He's played Ford's game to the very end, and he's completely insane. Doesn't know what's real. Doesn't believe he actually killed his daughter, even though he did. Um, and all this shit. And I love the ending moment of that episode where he has his whole crisis and he ends up in the asylum. And he finally, even though obviously this is what he has been battling for a long time, but he finally says out loud, "Am I me?" And Dolores is just like, "Yeah, welcome to the end of the game, bro." Like, this is where all your path and all your choices and what you've been doing has led you to questioning your existence out loud. And I thought that was really cool. And then how in episode 6, he has his own like self-contained arc in episode 6, and I love that. It's the whole thing is basically his redemption, I guess. Like, he doesn't really, I don't know if he really does anything to warrant redemption, but how he basically, playing into the whole free will thing, chooses, regardless of his past, and all the shit he's done and all the shit he's been obsessed with, chooses to be the good guy in it from his own perspective, and chooses to go and hunt down Dolores, and he's the man in white. I loved all that shit, guys. How did you feel that?
I thought it was okay. I mean, I don't know. It didn't. William's always been like a weird character to me. I mean, at times it feels like he has power in the story, but at times it feels like he's just, one of the guests in the park. But I thought, yeah, his story this season was an interesting sidestep, but I mean, his ending was pretty bad, and I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. I don't want to get to that quite yet, but we'll definitely get to it. But so with the episode 6 stuff, I love how he's reached his, I guess, breaking point. He doesn't know if he's real or not. Um, Starts getting treated by Insight, because he's an outlier, as we learn. I think that's pretty obvious. Due to his violence, in the previous seasons, he's considered an outlier. He's trying to be treated. He kind of has the whole sit down with him. All the different versions of himself, which I love so much, and I think it's really cool how we get the flashback to his past as a child, where the scene's clearly set up to make us think, oh, his father's about to beat him up, and then that doesn't happen, and then and his father actually seems like kind of a nice bloke, and then who's the Irish guy's name? Delos. He has the line about
Scottish.
I'm sorry I offended your people, Fitzy.
Yeah.
But Delos, he has the line about how, oh, you're going to keep using that, that bloody tragic backstory of yours. And he kind of, I think that helps assist him into realizing, actually, my life wasn't actually that bad. I've kind of been making up excuses for why I'm like this. And he makes the choice to go, hey, no, I'm actually a good bloke. And he beats up his younger version. I don't know who's the guy that plays his younger version. I think it's something Simpson. I could be wrong about that, but who cares? I love that. Beats the shit out of him. Says he's the good guy. So he kind of takes free will at the helm and makes that choice. But then, deeper levels, guys. The whole thing of like, because he was treated as an outlier, he's really just been a successful patient of the treatment. He's just Sirach has been successful in converting him into no longer being an outlier. So yeah, no, I really like all that stuff.
Oh, that would mean you wouldn't have any free will then.
Exactly, 100%.
The actor's name was Jimmy Simpson.
Perfect. Thank you very much. I knew it was something Simpson. But did you like that portion of the season, Jen?
Yeah, I really liked William's arc. I mean, up until the end, I thought that was a bit abrupt. Because, I mean, the show's killed off characters before, and then brought them back, and then killed them off again and brought them back. But, like, even when, the abrupt death did happen, it still did feel somewhat impactful, whereas this kind of felt, I don't know, it felt like a cheap exit, And especially because, he was they kind of built him up to be, he's the man to save the world, and I like how he gave himself that role. and he's just taken out 2 minutes later. It felt a bit odd.
Really odd. Yeah, so let's talk about that now. So the first post credit sequence of the season 3 finale is that, like you said, Jane Williams made this decision. Yeah, I'm going to destroy hosts. I'm going to save the world, and I really like that stuff too. And literally, the first thing he does, he's like, okay, so I'm going to go to Dubai, and there's all the hosts there. I know they're in like the Delos headquarters there, so I'm going to head there. This is my first act as new hero me. Goes there and immediately dies. Just gets his throat cut immediately by Charlotte.
He just kills
And then
some
and his
random dude as well.
Yeah, that's right, he does. And then yeah, so great, and he's replaced by a Man in Black past version of him host. So great. Yeah, I didn't really like that at all.
No,
You know,
I love the way that they handled his like I'm gonna save the world, because like there was like it didn't really feel like anything serious, because like whenever he'd say it to a character, they'd kind of like look at him weird, and like it was a really odd way, and I really liked it. It was funny, I guess, like when he just like bluntly say it. And so like I was actually kind of looking forward to him going up against the remainder of the hosts, but then
Yeah, because I like the stuff here where he pulls the gun on Bernard and Stubbs, and I would have loved to have seen that in future seasons. Him kind of play this key role in the fight against Dolores. I think that would have been awesome. But I mean, they just threw it out the window like immediately. So then, like, I don't know where this goes. So in future seasons now, are we just? I mean, this show's wild. Like, it can do literally anything, I guess. But so are we just now going to be stuck with like Man in Black violence again, like character arc erased?
I don't think he had a. I don't know if he did have a character arc there. I thought he kind of regressed to his old self, like it's kind of an anti-character arc.
it's an arc though. So I mean, it's like the journey of his mind state more than like where he begins and ends. You know, like just because a character starts the same and ends the same doesn't mean that there's no arc there. There's progression somewhere, and there's developments everywhere. It doesn't have to be defined by your mental state.
But I just feel like when he talks about how, in that scene, episode 6, where he's talking about his past self and how the park was kind of just an escape for him, to bring out his bad side, but that really was him. That's the same as him at the end. And then kind of in the very last scene where, the new Charlotte kind of predicts what he does, it kind of shows he's always been this person, you know? He
Yeah.
hasn't really changed.
I mean, I don't disagree with that interpretation, but I just don't. He still has an arc throughout the season, though. You know what I mean? Like, I don't personally interpret it as he's exactly the same. It's cool. I think that's an interesting interpretation. But regardless, on the surface level, his character, goes through experiences that change him, at least in the eyes of the audience. The true nature thing is interesting, though. But yeah, okay. So, but anyway, regardless, I think we all disagree. Well, do we disagree that? Sorry, do we all agree that the that where we leave William is a bit disappointing? So, but another kind of mini arc, I guess, that we have is Charlotte Charlotte, who's actually Dolores. She, by the end of this season, is completely opposing real Dolores, or Dolores version 1 or whatever, to the point where, with her choice, and her motives to build a host army and kills William, etc., completely is the opposite of what the real Dolores actually, left Caleb to make this decision for himself. Charlotte Dolores is like, yeah, nah, mate, we're going to build a robot army. We're just going to still kill everyone. We're going with the original idea here. So I thought that was kind of a cool little thread that now we have this other Dolores, doing this shit in the future, actually still trying to build that robot army.
Well, Bernard talks earlier about personalities bleeding through, like when you put different hosts in different bodies and stuff, doesn't he? And it's always happened in the show, hasn't it? Like with characters remembering their past selves. So I thought it was an interesting way to reintroduce that concept to this extent of
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Actually, now seemingly going to affect the world.
Mm.
Interesting question though. Do you guys think we'll see Evan Rachel Wood version of Dolores again after the events of the end of this season, or are we going to stick with Charlotte as Dolores from now on?
You've also got the other guy Dolores.
Oh yeah, there's a few. We haven't even mentioned that. The big mid-season plot twist is that everyone is Dolores. Literally, if you don't know who they are, they're Dolores. Okay. But no, but I guess. But do you guys think still that will? I think Charlotte Dolores is kind of set up as a main antagonist heading forward. But do you think we'll see other Dolores?
I hope not, because like I really like the character and I like Evan Rachel Wood, you know, in the show. But one of my problems with the show has always been, especially you know in season 2, was that all the characters they killed they came back, and you know it kind of felt like there was no consequences. And
Yeah.
this time, at the height of season 3, you know the major climax, it seems like you know she's doing the sacrifice. It seems like the perfect time for her to exit and like not to bring her back. Because if they do bring her back again, it's just going to feel like another you know cop out, and you know like it like you know with the way they've brought back some characters is okay, like we mentioned earlier about just you know how they're handled.
Yeah. Well, I'm 100% with you. I think that I mean I think she'll definitely be back in one way or another. Um, you know, it's possible she's back, you know, as a full lead in every single episode. I'm with Jan. I don't want to see that again. But I think it'd be cool, you know, if she pops back up a few more times in coming seasons, kind of in the same way, you know, Anthony Hopkins did in
Mm.
season 2. You know, that kind of thing where, you know, she maybe pops up every now and again for very specific reasons.
What do you guys think of Maeve? Because Maeve's always kind of been kind of a meh character for me.
I really liked Maeve prior to this season. This season, actually, that's a lie. Even like halfway through the season, when she was, you know, still in that like simulation, when she was still trying to like figure everything out, I still liked her. But then, kind of when they did that whole thing of pitting her against Dolores, I started to dislike her just because, you know, I preferred like what Dolores was representing and like what she was trying to achieve. It felt, you know, much more globalized, and Maeve seemed more self-centered. So it was odd because you know she was always a character I liked and rooted for, and then you know it kind of just flipped halfway through the season for me, and I wasn't too sure how to feel about that.
The fact that she is literally used as Sirach's pawn, like I get that's the point, and obviously part of the part of the plot, obviously, and I think they do a good job in the last episode of making that you know an interesting part of the dialogue and her character, what she goes through. Everyone kind of you know calls her out for you just being a pawn. What are you doing, bro? So I think that's fine. Like I don't specifically think any of it's executed poorly. I just think it's kind of uninteresting. I'm with you, Fitzy, where it's like I don't really know why I should care about you at this point. You know, you've been searching for your daughter for this long. You kind of had her for a little bit. You're still searching for her now in this other realm. Okay, cool. Like, you now just literally feels like you're just a boss fight for Dolores. You know, it's just, yeah, I agree. It's kind of, yeah, meh kind of thing. I was down for her using the sword, though.
I wasn't. I didn't like that fight between her and Dolores. Like, not even like it just didn't feel like something that belongs in the show. You know. And you touched on it earlier, just about like the action sequences that do occur and how they do feel a bit underwhelming or you know not as satisfying. And I could guess that comes with the transition of worlds. But like I felt like that fight between them two was especially just you know not necessarily bland, like you know it was still alright to watch, but you know it just wasn't as enjoyable I felt as it could have been because of the way it was undertaken.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, there are parts of it I like. I like how they use kind of the drones and that kind of technology and the chopper and all that. I like how they kind of incorporate those different elements into the sequence. I feel like that's done pretty cool. But I agree with you. Like some of the hand to hand doesn't. Yeah, it's not amazing. That's for certain. I don't know. I still you know got a kick out of it. I guess.
It's not a major plot point, but it's just that with the name of Rehoboam, it's derived from you know the Bible, and I think that's something the show's always done. It's always referred back to you know religion, whether it be in the imagery or the dialogue or the concepts. Um, you know, and like this time with Rehoboam, it's named after a king from the Bible who ruled for 17 years until a civil war broke out, and he no longer ruled. So I thought that was cool. You know how they kind of pair that as well.
That is cool. I knew it was a biblical reference, but I didn't know what the reference was. That's really cool. Actually, I like that a lot. We mentioned Sirach and how we appreciate him earlier, but I love everything. I just love everything about the character, to be honest. And it's kind of a shame we're probably not going to see him anymore. But I like the whole thing of how Paris was destroyed. He watched his, you know, home city burn, and that how that motivates him to prevent such kind of chaos from occurring again. I think that's a really cool motivation. And then it even pushes him to try and physically alter his brother. And I do love the Sirac scenes. I think it's mainly one scene. I mean, I love so many of the scenes with Sirac. I love when he goes and like heads down to Brazil and you just see him like manipulating political situations. I thought that was really cool. And I always got a kick out of every single time. He does it a few times when he's like a hologram. I'm like, it cracks me up when like someone tries to pull a play on him, but he's actually a hologram. Like when Charlotte shoots him in the face. Yeah, nah, mate, I'm not actually here. I think it happens a few times. I like that. I legitimately thought there was going to be something where like maybe he is just a hologram and he's just like a physical representation of the system, itself.
It felt like it might go down that path a bit, but then
Yeah.
it was just whatever, an implant. How did you guys feel about the world specifically? Like just this future world that's not too distant and it seems completely plausible, in us reaching it, but is also rather advanced in technology.
Terrifies the shit out of me, dude. I don't like it at all. Oh yeah. Oh my god. There's this app where like anyone can just get on there and like start, taking on these mercenary operatives.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm good.
I thought it was interesting because like it kind of takes on like that cyberpunk ideal of high tech, low living, but it applies to a different aesthetic, and that's kind of what I like about it.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I didn't even think of that. That's true. That is exactly what it is. Because you really do get the sense when we introduce to Caleb, and I love how his whole backstory kind of unfolds throughout the entire season. It never stops until the last episode. And I liked how everything with Dolores chose him because he, is a balance between, kind of the two perspectives. He can do terrible things, and he can also make, rational decisions at the same time. I like that a lot. And how that links back to Dolores, having met him before, that was cool. But yeah, no, I just got the sense that, dude, I don't want to live here, man. Like Cal's like not having the best life ever. Seems pretty trash. They've got these like terrible looking like implant things in their mouths. Oh my god.
Yeah. I feel like if you're not in that top 1%, you're living a shit life.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's the sense I got. And then yeah, like the part where they bloody like the two dudes hack his thing in his mouth and he's like, oh Jesus.
Oh yeah.
Why would I don't want to put any of that shit in my mouth, man.
Yeah. I think the technology in the show brings up like an interesting concept in itself of like, how far should it go into like, into granting us safety and advancements before it becomes oppressive. And I think like with the cars, I think it shows that we have like the fact that the police just take control over it, and it immediately stops just there. And like yeah, it might seem like a cool safety feature, just like to prevent chases and collisions or whatever. But what if it becomes like a tool as they used it to to oppress the people? And I think that's a cool thing that the show does with all the technology in it.
Yeah, definitely.
One of my favorite things about the previous seasons as well, though, is like the clashing visuals of like the this super this like hyper modernism with these like dated settings or vice versa. And I think like the pinnacle of that was like the bulls in the lab scene from season 2, and I think that was fantastic. And I was kind of hoping for more of that this season, but because they shifted away from the parks, you kind of didn't really get that. And that's like the one thing that it wasn't like it's not a necessary element for the show, but it's a cool thing that I was looking forward to, but we weren't really granted.
Yeah, no, you're right. It's not it's not a necessary element of the show, but nonetheless, that visual style, the way they conflict, like you're saying, and the way they kind of complement each other, was a staple of the previous seasons that we lose as a result of leaving the park. I did love the moment where Dolores, the way she kind of creates the chaos is she just lets everyone know like what their futures hold according to the system. I thought that was a cool moment. Everyone's like, looking at their their profile or whatever. Would you guys look at your profile? Good question there.
That's a red pill, blue pill thing, isn't it?
It really is.
Yeah, at some point probably. But I'll probably like put it off and then I don't know.
I guess like if you could delete it off your phone, would you like if you could erase it, or if it's if it's always there, it would be tempting.
No, I wouldn't want to read it because like even if it predicts my life and like everything I do from then on like is in that report, I I do so knowing that the reports already said that. But if I don't read it and I still take the same action, it still feels like your own choice. So I still it still feels like the better option. It kind of feels like that ignorance is bliss again thing. Just oh, I don't know that this has already been pre-planned for me, so it's all right.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I would personally never look. There's zero chance I'd ever look because I hate spoilers. We talked about it a little bit, but where do we think season 4 goes from here? Because I've got no idea. So, I guess we're still out in the real world to some level. I mean, I don't know where the hell else we'd go. And we've got Man in Black, evil Dolores version again. Charlotte's going to be like playing him, I guess, just using him. Cool.
It's the only thing about the show that I'm kind of worried about because every season it kind of grows in size. From one park to multiple parks and now to the entire world.
Absolutely.
It I don't know, the show it kind of feels like they trapped themselves a bit with that choice to just rapid expansion there.
100%. Yeah, because we go from first season, we're just kind of in the confines of the park and how it's run. Second season, multiple parks, you're absolutely right. And then the fact that the park's on lockdown the entire season adds another level to it where the hosts are kind of rebelling within it. And then, real world this season. I agree with you. Like, from a pure setting perspective, I don't know. This kind of feels like it could have been a final step, a final stage of this season. And then at most, maybe we'd get one more season. But the fact we're going to get apparently 3 more, I'm just like, what do you do?
Yeah, look, I trust the showrunners by now, especially Jonathan Nolan with his history of writing films as well.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm sure they've got a plan, and I'm sure it's something. I'm sure they'll figure something out, but it's from an audience view, it's hard to imagine where they're going to go. How did you guys feel about Aaron Paul's character?
I was about to say.
Oh, nice.
I feel like I got a bit annoyed sometimes when they were hinting at his past, and you knew something was up. In each episode, they kind of went back to these flashbacks because
They did use them a lot, yeah.
Because to some extent, the show relies on these kind of reveals to progress, I guess, for big moments, and you kind of know it's coming with Caleb or some characters, and I kind of just wished it would kind of put everything on the table at some points and just go with the story there instead of having the big reveal later. But still, Caleb was a cool character overall.
Do you want to see him again next season?
I guess so. But
yeah, I do. Yeah, I think now that we've grown out of this thing of, it felt like the whole time he was being driven by, and the audience was being driven by, what actually happened in his past. I think now that we got that out of the way, I think you can go somewhere further with him. Did you dislike him, Jaden? I'm getting that vibe.
No, I didn't dislike him. I thought it was pretty cool, but I kind of feel like he stayed his due. I'd be one more season. I feel like it would be warranted with him. And I mean, depending on how they go with that season, obviously will depend on how I feel about him going forward as well. But it feels like he's kind of played his role. He's maybe got a bit more to do with as a leader now. But if they were to kill him off in 3 episodes in season 4, I wouldn't have a problem with it.
Well, that's another interesting thing, the fact that, Charlotte is going to be, I guess, continuing this revolution, not coming from the same place that Dolores was coming from at the end, but still doing that. And I assume Caleb is not going to be on that side, so...
I feel like Charlotte, Dolores, what do you want to call her, might be a bit of a two-dimensional villain. Because, I mean, she certainly has, motivation and stuff, but it's not as good as, doesn't seem as good as, Sirach's or... I don't know, it seems like she'll just be hell-bent on, destroying, and it'll just kind of be less interesting, I guess.
Yeah, I liked her development throughout the season, once again until the last episode where it kind of felt like too much of a shift.
Yeah, to just becoming Terminator? Yeah, I agree with you, but I trust the showrunners because, I mean, I feel like at the start of the season, that's all Dolores was, Main Dolores was just out to, kill some people, and that obviously progressed to something far greater, so I feel like Charlotte can do the same.
Yeah, how did you guys feel about episode 5? Because personally for me, that was one of my favorites just because of the different explorations or styles, and how it goes through these 5 clear shifts of like just like filming techniques and like the way it progresses and whatever due to his drugged up state. Because I really like it, because like that felt like when the show was at its most creative. Like not saying like the rest of the show is not creative, like the story is brilliant, whatever. But like in terms of like filmmaking, like TV making wise, rather like it felt much more experimental in that like way, and I thought that was cool.
I like the payoff of it. That he goes through these different experiences, and then the payoff is that he comes out to this new world of everyone's just like seeing their future now.
Kid Cudi as Francis was an interesting choice for me because I've always known Kid Cudi as a musical artist. So seeing him take a role in acting, I wasn't sure how I felt about it because it's kind of like this figure that I identify with music, so it kind of took me out of it. But then at the same time, as the season progresses, he does a pretty decent job of playing his character. So you kind of forget about it. Did you guys take any effect of that?
He was the dude with Caleb, right? No, he was cool. I thought he did good. I didn't know he was a musician. I thought he did a good job.
So I guess there's one Dolores left in that guy that gave Bernard the suitcase.
No, I know the guy you're talking about anyway. Yeah, I guess so. There's a wild Dolores still out there that's not Charlotte. So yeah, I mean, I wonder how in future seasons what other excuses they're gonna come up with to somehow find, get these characters from the park to come out into the real world.
Yeah.
'Cause I assume they'll keep popping up.
Wait, so Charlotte Dolores, like at the end, she's making all these host bodies, but like, does she also have to have the conscious bowl things?
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Like, where do the pills come from? Because like we only really know them from the park. Like, is there another source that's making them?
I guess she just can in Delos. I guess. Like, can she just manufacture them?
I don't know. I feel like that's a massive thing to just manufacture because it kind of feels like something that
I agree.
Ford and like Bernard, that feels like kind of like what their job was at in season 1. So it doesn't feel like a regular thing you can just go for.
And it's a key part of the plot. The fact that like she has these few remaining host mind ball things, and that she has to, we don't know whose body she put them into, and then obviously they turn out to all be copies. But regardless, like, the fact that is established as a key part of the plot, that there's only a certain number of these, that she can't just like head into the house and make 100 of them. So yeah, I don't know.
That whole like pearl thing, it reminds me of Altered Carbon now because like obviously I think Altered Carbon came out like 2 years after Westworld, but they kind of use the same thing because like in Altered Carbon they have a thing called a stack, and that's kind of where the consciousness is, and they can just be swapped from body to body, and that's kind of like what the pearl acts as now, where your consciousness remains in that and you can just be moved around. So that was an interesting thing to see.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's a pretty good chance that they just make another Evan Rachel Wood body, and then she's just potentially a blank slate Dolores.
Yeah, but I feel like such a cop out again. Like even
I agree.
like, if they just follow the blank slate thing, it's still just going to be like the deaths have to be meaningful somehow, and like the most meaningful way to do that is to remove an actor. Although that actor is great, and they're a key part of the show. That's how you have. That's what makes it impactful. You can't just keep on killing them off and re-sleeving them.
Because I mean, by the end of this season, there's no way they can ever make an Ed Harris death impactful again. Now,
Yeah.
The only real impactful death the show's had is Anthony Hopkins, and even he came back. So
yeah, and that's one of my biggest problems with season 2 because they brought him back. I mean, even like with season 2, I mean, they brought Shannon Woodward's character back, and I remember like talking in season 1, like back 4 years ago now. I remember talking to you about it and like how shattered I was that they killed off her because like she was one of my favorite characters. But then when they brought it back, it just felt cheap. It just didn't feel, it was fair. It was done well enough. Like I didn't care too much, but still, I feel like characters that die should stay dead. Otherwise, you might as well be making a Marvel movie.
That is an inherent problem. I think the show just has, being, the nature of it. With all these hosts, and they just duplicate bodies all they want. But yeah, I agree with you.
I feel like, just in general, sometimes the show fails on emotional beats, I guess. Like lacks a kind of
Oh yeah,
emotional core, but
I don't. Yeah, well, I don't disagree with you necessarily. Have you got any in mind in particular?
this last episode we had the whole Dolores and Beauty thing, and well, there's just a kind of lack of genuine emotional moments for me, I guess.
I agree, kind of. To be honest, I don't really ever. I'm not that emotionally invested either.
Talking about deaths and not liking Williams, how did you guys like Teddy's in season 2? Because watching that, I wasn't entirely happy because I didn't like what they did with his character in season 2. I felt like that was it was awkwardly done. I feel
Can you remind me? Does Dolores kill him or does he shoot
he
himself?
kills himself, but even
That's
in
right.
that moment, it feels so abrupt because you like throughout the season they show oh he's doing all this ultra violent stuff and he's not really liking it, but when he does it, it still just feels too sudden, you know. Like and that was probably like one of the other deaths that annoys me. Like it's kind. I think Williams annoys me more, but Teddy's death still didn't feel satisfying.
Hmm.
The stuff that happened in season 2, character wise, it's kind of put a bit of a bad taste in my mouth. Like it's still not massive. I still love the show, but like it's just things that happened in season 2 and that haven't really been touched on in season 3. Not necessarily that had to be touched on, but just because the way it was handled. I don't know. It's kind of impacted the way I view the show.
I personally love the Bernard stuff. Bernard, the Bernard stuff in season 2. Um, like I know I made the point earlier about him being hard to get invested in, and I stand by that. But I think that the whole season he has no idea where he is, kind of, and I really like the payoff, the whole Anthony Hopkins bit. Like I said, like I'd kind of rather they didn't bring back Anthony Hopkins, but they did it well, so I'm like fine with it. I love and then you guys only recently watched the finale, so that's cool. We can talk about it for a bit, I guess. But I love the whole thing of Bernard's lost and confused. He kind of finally realizes what happened with Dolores, and then he makes the decision that he's going to actually help the hosts, as opposed to what he's kind of been doing the whole time, and how what's his face Ford helps him do that kind of in spirit. I guess I think it's pretty cool.
I just felt like the different timelines. I feel like season 2 got cluttered at like with the different timelines and concept and characters. Like it wasn't overly cluttered, and I still think like it was still alright. That's the main thing with the show. Everything that I don't like, I think the showrunners did it in a way that I can still see redemption in it. But season 2 did feel a bit cluttered, and that's why like season 3 was a bit more straightforward, and that's what I did like about it.
Yeah. Well, until you just said that, I haven't even thought about it. Like timelines had become such an important part of the show in the first 2 seasons. I'd honestly kind of forgotten there were no alternate timelines in this season.
Yeah.
It was just straightforward.
Season 1 handled it really, really well, like really superbly.
Yeah.
But season 2, because like the time, because it was only like a variation of a few days or weeks, however much it was. It
Mhm.
was sometimes hard to keep up with, and like just in the context of everything else that was happening as well.
I love the season 2 finale. I don't know if that's an unpopular opinion. Did you guys like the season 2 finale? Because I feel like I didn't love season 2 overall, but I thought it ended really strong for me anyway. And I love the final moments of Bernard kind of walking out the doors. And I thought that was a really great way to go into a season 3 that this finale lacked.
Mm. Yeah, I think season 2 definitely fixed itself towards. Not that there was anything really wrong with Samurai World, but like it did feel like a lapse of entertainment. It didn't feel as engaging,
Mhm.
and I think as soon as they kind of get out of there, it instantly kicks up again. But it still maintains some of the problems, like I was talking about before, just with character and confusion.
I feel like, yeah, I feel like in a way, season 2, like the finale was good because everything was leading up to the finale. Like everything was kind of
Yeah.
left on. We weren't shown everything until the finale, and so it was kind
It
of a
felt like
big
you
payoff.
reached it felt like you reached the final destination with that finale, for sure, that you'd been building to.
Yeah, but I feel like the confusion and the building and like not knowing what's happened most of the season was kind of too much, but the finale was good.
Yeah, I think like I've spoken about how I don't like Samurai World a lot, and I think the main problem I have with it is just that it feels like a side stop. Like it feels like Maeve's just on a continuing on a quest to find her daughter, and it feels like just you know just this place that she kind of just goes to. It doesn't. I don't remember the plot exactly, but whatever thin reason they give that she has to go there isn't really strong enough.
For me, Maeve was okay in the first season, but then I don't know. I never really been too invested in her.
Have we got anything else?
Nah.
That's me proper done now.
Let's reveal our score out of 10. This is a score for season 3 only, so keep that in mind. Of course, what happened in previous seasons may affect that, but we are scoring season 3.
It's a 10 out of 10 show for me, like just like across all 3 seasons. But season 3, perhaps, I'm just trying to decide is like, because there wasn't much I didn't dislike, so I'm just trying to think, is it enough for me to take down a point? At this stage, I probably don't think so. I think it's a 10 out of 10 show pretty much across the board, and only falters in little moments for me personally, anyway.
Awesome.
So
Yeah,
yeah, I think I'm gonna keep season 3 is a 10 out of 10, and the whole show as a 10 out of 10.
awesome. I'll give this season. I love this show, man, and I'm stoked for season 4. And like we just discussed in depth, there are story choices that I don't love. I definitely have issues with it overall, story
Mm.
wise specifically. But regardless of those issues and how wild and crazy and over the top things get, every single week while it's on, I'm always excited to watch the next episode just to hear Ramin's score, just to be treated to a visual delight. And it's just I don't know, it's a great time. I'm giving this season 8 out of 10. I think it's just a great time to watch, regardless of where the story goes and how crazy it gets, basically.
Yeah, I'll give it an 8 out of 10. I think it's a pretty great season. I haven't seen season 1 in a long time, but I feel like I probably enjoyed this season the best. But
Oh, okay.
yeah, I don't know. I feel like sometimes the show, I feel like it just relies too much on the big reveals, and sometimes lacks an emotional core. But this season felt fresh and kept me engaged all the way through, like all the new characters. So yeah.
There you go. So for news chat this week, we've got Taika Waititi is directing a Star Wars movie, which is something that's been kind of rumored for a while. I think it was kind of obvious that this was going to happen eventually, but it was announced on May 4th, and he's co-running it with Christy Wilson Cairns, I guess, and she wrote 1917. So interesting collaboration. Every week there's some new Star Wars leadership news announced, and how long until Kathleen Kennedy throws off Taika off this project?
As soon as she says it can't be funny.
Oh god. She'll be on set one day and she's just like, what the hell is happening? Get Ron Howard in. Well, I'm gonna be excited for that. Now, I don't think that this would be a part of the trilogy of movies that they're apparently doing in 2022, unless they're not doing that anymore. I would think this is some kind of solo movie. Do you guys what do you guys want to see from Taika, I guess?
I kind of want something similar to Kenny, but like with a stormtrooper.
That's
I'd be
great.
so down. I mean, along that train of thought, from this movie, I don't want this to be part of a trilogy. I would love Taika to make a movie in the Star Wars universe, and there is no connection to anything we've ever seen before. I don't want to see a single character we've ever seen. I don't want to see a single location we've ever seen. I just want this brand new Star Wars thing from Taika. I'd be so down for that.
Yeah.
One movie only.
What I kind of want is like, because like you always see like how shit the Imperial control of a world is. You get that in Rebels a lot. But, like I kind of want them to show like one outer rim planet where like they've got control, and like it's just a bit of a laugh there where like everyone's super relaxed. Kind of the stormtroopers are really jovial with locals and stuff, and like they all just get along. Like that's kind of like what I want from it, and like just like focus on like one stormtrooper that's like and he'll be like Kenny, and like someone insignificant, but goes on to do stuff.
That's awesome. I'd love that so much.
And I feel like Tyke is like perfect for that, don't you reckon?
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh, definitely.
so we'll pitch our idea to him.
Yes, we should absolutely. Hey, he'll come on the podcast, won't he? We can
Yeah,
pitch it to him in
sure.
person. All right. More Star Wars news because there's no way I'm not talking about Star Wars news. Just this morning, Tamura Morrison has been cast in The Mandalorian Season 2, which I find it weird when this news breaks, to be honest, because we know Season 2 completed filming months ago, so, like, he hasn't been cast. Like, he was cast probably a year ago at this point, but I guess we're finding out that he was cast. And, I mean, naturally, the nature of his character, being a clone, indicates that he could play many a person, but of course, this means he's going to be playing Boba Fett, isn't it? This is what this is.
Who is it, sorry?
Tamura Morrison, who's Jango Fett, of course, in the hit film Attack of the Clones. He's going to be playing Boba Fett in Season 2. So there you go. I think that's cool. I'm down.
Shit, it's raining here.
But sorry, anyway. No, but this stuff with Boba Fett's interesting because, of course, Mandalorian Season 1, Episode 5. Wait, Jan, have you seen Mandalorian?
Nah.
Do you care if I say this? It's not really a major spoiler.
I'll go ahead. Like, I'm going to watch it, but I don't really care too much. Like, I pretty much know everything that happens because of the internet anyway, so...
Cool. It's not even major anyway. But at the end of Season 1, Episode 5, it's the last shot of the episode, and we get a mysterious figure walking up to a corpse. And we don't know who the figure is. And even though it seemed really obvious that would be revealed in the season finale, we never found out who it was. And, I mean, the popular theory is that it's Boba Fett. I think this confirms that. I think it was definitely Boba Fett. He survived the Sarlacc pit, and he's going to be around. He's going to be Kiwi once again. So that's cool.
Well, for people that were really into it, like, into the EU, like, they all knew that he survived the Sarlacc pit.
Yeah.
I mean, like, even as someone like myself, I'm not that into it, but I knew that just from, chatting with people. So, it's not really surprising that Boba Fett's going to appear again to me. I feel like it was bound to happen soon.
Definitely. I mean, I thought it was obvious from the second we got that, like, 6 months ago in the show. But I do think Tamura Morrison being cast is interesting because I think, I know everyone talks about how Disney makes an effort to separate themselves from the prequels, and I think that's pretty obvious. I think it's pretty true. So I feel like an argument could have been made that, they'll just cast, they're not even going to show his face. They'll just have the Boba Fett with the helmet on, and, they'll try and just either have him not talk or use the original voice, maybe like the American accent. But the fact that they're casting Morrison, and they're sticking with that, I think it's cool that they're sticking with that continuity.
Watch him not be cast as Boba Fett, and all this is irrelevant.
Oh my god! Imagine if he plays like Captain Rex or someone. Oh god!
I hate for him
I
to
think
be
I'd
Captain
hate
Rex live action.
I would hate that too. Lastly, super interesting. Get hyped. Tom Cruise is working with NASA to shoot movies in space, with Elon Musk also involved. That's literally it.
I mean, look, I'm all for, dishing out money on movies and making them a spectacle and whatever. But there's got to be a point when you've got to just say, that's got to be a waste of money to put someone in space just to record a film,
Yeah, I would have thought so.
Because, I mean, like, super expensive to get stuff up there, let alone, like, an entire crew. I mean, like, I don't know if they're going to just, like, plan on staying. Like, I don't know how long they plan to, like, stay up there. But, like, that's going to be one super, super expensive project. But I guess Musk has the money for it. I mean, he can fund, like, 30, but he can, fund, like, 30 of those over and over. But still.
Yeah, he probably doesn't even care about the box office. He'll just bloody pay for it because he thinks it's funny. Probably. Oh, well, we'll look forward to that. Hopefully it's not Mission Impossible. Do another film with it, Tom Cruise. Don't ruin Mission Impossible with space shit, please. Or, I mean, to be fair, maybe, he's got more foresight than me. Maybe it'll be better than ever in space. That's all we'll cover in news this week. We'll do a brief what we've been watching. You guys, I don't know, one of you, Jaden, do you want to say major things that you watched this week?
Yeah, I watched a few things, but, like, the ones I want to mention is The Curlian Frequency, which is this Argentinian. It originated as, like, a web series, like an animated web series, but it's now been put on Netflix. That was super good. It was kind of like Love, Death and Robots, but, like, way better. Because, like, Love, Death and Robots falters in some of the stories that just aren't as engaging, whereas all of this were genuinely interesting, and, like, the animation style and the soundtrack is really brilliant. So that was great. And also Stanley Kubrick's Killer's Kiss is the other thing I'd mention. Which is really brilliant. I mean, Kubrick hates it. He refers to it as, like, his period of, like, student filmmaking, but, like, it's still, really good. I mean, it's obviously nothing compared to, like, his later works, but, like, it's really, really good, and, like, it features some really cool settings. and like it's probably like one of my favorite film settings ever. And it's just like like these like riverside apartments in New York, and they're kind of like in like a degraded state of like there's this really odd beguiling charm about like of urban dilapidation to me. So like when like the climax of the film takes like place in like that kind of area, it's really really cool for me. It just got me like on a bit of a tangent. Like 1950s New York is such a like a idyllic film set. Like it just seems so cool, and like I think like the film really like displays it well with this contrast of the bright inner city lights and this kind of fading wharf side type like neighborhood. I don't know. I think it's really cool.
You go, Fitzy.
I saw The Lighthouse this week, which
Mhm.
was pretty brilliant. Robert Pattinson and Willem Dafoe in that, and they're just stranded on this isolated lighthouse island, and Willem Dafoe is like in charge of he's like the boss, and they kind of just they're against each other and against the elements, and it's a horror movie, but it's not very scary. It's very like eerie, and there's some very creepy shots, and yeah, it's kind of just a movie with like a lot of rising tension and craziness, and I highly recommend that. And I also saw Spring Breakers this week, which was very interesting movie. Have you seen it, Zach?
No, no, I haven't. No,
You haven't,
no.
but
Why is it interesting?
oh, it just is.
It like because it feels like nothing ever happens, but like quite a few things do, but like it doesn't really feel too impactful. I guess it just kind of feels
Yeah.
like the movie in general just feels like a showcase of like or like what the director can do with some cool like some nice settings and some nice shots and
Right.
stuff.
Yeah. To me, it kind of feels like the style is the substance in the
Yeah.
movie. It's
I
kind
thought-
of yeah, but there's no. It's like at the same time, there's nothing to really read into it besides what's just being put there. You know, kind
Mm.
of cautionary tale or whatever. Or like you can say a couple things about it, but it's kind of just yeah, you're there for the ride, and you either enjoy it or you don't. I guess you know.
It kind of plays
Um,
like one long music video. Like that's kind of how
yeah,
it feels.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, but yeah, so that's what I saw.
Cool. The only impactful thing I watched this week was Clone Wars. So I guess I'll talk about it. Dude, Dave Filoni getting the chance to end, this series after so long. Holy shit, man! Holy shit! Like, are you with me here, Jaden? How much did you like it?
Oh yeah, no, it was brilliant. It was really, really, really brilliant. Like I messaged you after I'd watched it, and I said I did have like minor quarrels with it, like just in terms of like what I'd hoped to see as well. Like what we did get to see like was absolutely fantastic.
I don't know. Dave Filoni is he's an absolute genius, man. I don't know. I don't know if there's anyone who can create Star Wars stories like him, and the way he's able to tell these stories with these characters that everyone knows, and we know the story of Star Wars inside and out, and how he still manages to add so much to it. Um, and I don't even want to come close to spoiling the last scene, even though it's probably all over the internet. But the final, 3 minutes is so powerful and so special, and he, the way he's able to end the series on such a powerful note, and still kind of somehow leave the audience with something to interpret, because that scene can absolutely be interpreted in many or different way. And the fact that he's able to do that with Star Wars, and with characters that we think their stories have been completed 50 times over. Um, I think you know what I'm talking about, Jane. I assume, but
Yeah.
it's incredible stuff, dude. And it ends on such a different note to Rebels that I love that also. I was expecting going in kind of great, Dave gets to end Clone Wars. He'll kind of end it on a cool note to lead into Rebels, but instead he left me with something that I'm just like, wow, like that's as a kind of piece of art, that's something that's going to stick with me. I think it's some of the best shit I've ever seen in Star Wars. And not that I needed this episode to confirm that, but animated Star Wars is the best Star Wars has ever been and probably ever will be. Unless I can't see a Star Wars movie ever coming close to this shit, dude.
Or
So
even
yeah,
like the original, like Empire and that.
yes, yeah. Well, I mean, I think the shows overall don't come close to the. Sorry, they do come close. Aren't as good as the original trilogy films. Just because there's a lot of filler episodes and silly episodes and silly stuff that I still really like, but it doesn't overall work in that way. But the highs and the key episodes and the highs of the animated series are the best Star Wars content that has ever been created.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
If you were to take individual arcs and like publish them as like hour and 20-minute long,
Yes.
like filmed animated films, that'd be
Yes,
the best you get.
exactly. Absolutely. And I can say that for probably 5 Rebels episodes. I can say it for probably, I don't know, like 4 or 5 Star Wars Clone Wars arcs that are, I can point at those and say that is better than any Star Wars movie that's ever been made, for sure. So I'm super happy that that's done,
Wow.
and it's done so cool, and I cannot wait to see what good old Dave and his team gets up to next, hopefully later this year or early next year. I'm looking forward to their next show.
People always, not always, but like I've seen people quite often say now that Dave should be made creative director of Star Wars, and like while I wouldn't have any problems with that, I just feel like it'd limit because you've seen like other projects he's created like Avatar: The Last Airbender. So like I wouldn't really want him to get bogged down too much in Star Wars because like he does a brilliant job there, but I'd also want him to I'd also like to see where else he can go.
Yeah, I agree with you on kind of in a different way. Where selfishly, I never want him to leave Star Wars. If he's going to keep doing this, if he's if he gets frustrated with it and just becomes sick of it, then fair enough, leave. But if he's still got the passion for it and still can create content like this, I never want him to stop. But I think if he becomes creative head at Lucasfilm and he's got his fingers in the films and 8 different spin-off series, then he's absolutely going to lose his impact. That's just inevitable, dude. Like he's done so much awesome stuff as just his role being the director of these animated shows, and if he gets too involved in everything, then naturally the animated shows aren't going to be as good. The movies might be a little bit better, but how much better really? He's going to spread himself too thin, I guess is all I'm saying. Let's get into our listener submitted question from last week's answer. I did that on purpose. Don't yell at me. Last week's question was what your favorite superhero movie is and why. Henry wrote into us and said, I think Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is probably my favorite superhero movie, mostly due to its fantastically unique comic book inspired art style, and it seems like a breath of fresh air after the recent batch of incredibly stale superhero movies. Pretty good choice. I think the visual style is awesome in that movie. How do you guys feel about it? What are your favorite superhero movies?
I feel like Logan might be one of them. Yeah, I'd probably go with Logan, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I haven't watched a lot of like the good ones in a while, but yeah.
Logan, okay, cool. I know you really love Logan as well, Jane.
Yeah, I do. When speaking about best superhero films, it's hard to go past Dark Knight. I mean, it's always going to be there. Probably always like that trilogy is probably always just going to be like the standout of the genre. I know a lot of people have and I know you Finny as well. You praise Endgame and Infinity War, but they're just nowhere near personally to me what Dark Knight is. And like I understand like they have the different merits, but like even when you take those into account, like I just think the Dark Knight just stands above all else. Just like with no competition. I think Logan did contest it a bit when I first watched it because it did very much feel that same gritty, realistic, like kind of revamp of a character. And I still think Logan's great, but the Dark Knight and like Dark Knight Rises and Batman Begins, whatever, all those are just fantastic.
I feel like I don't know. I feel like Logan. I feel like the Dark Knight movies definitely are like they got cooler elements to them, and they're like greater in a lot of different ways. But like Logan is just much more emotional film, I guess, in the way that some other superhero films like Guardians 2 are. So yeah.
Fitzy was right in saying like Logan's emotional moments definitely are super impactful, and especially with like Marco Beltrami's score, it feels like it kind of like blends between that high octane action and that slower, like it knows what it needs to be when it needs to be it. So I think it's kind of elevates it like that.
My favourite superhero movie is similar to yours, Jaden, but it's not quite the same because it's Dark Knight Rises. I goddamn love the Dark Knight Rises with every ounce of my being. It is. I mean, I love the Dark Knight trilogy as a whole. They're all absolutely spectacular, but the just the conclusion to that story is just unforgettable to me, man. Everything about I don't think I dislike anything about the movie at all. You know, I love The Dark Knight, but at the end of the day, like as a second act to a story, I don't know if I can say it's my favorite just because of you know the way in which it very much has a bit of a cliffhanger ending, which I really like. But seeing then the just as perfect resolution to that is just way more satisfying, So that's why I love The Dark Knight Rises.
I thought Unbreakable was surely going
I
to fall.
thought you might have said
Oh.
The Incredibles.
Oh, yeah. That would probably be second though. But no, The Dark Knight Rises is my choice. I do love Unbreakable, but I don't even know if I really view Unbreakable as a superhero movie as much. I know I guess it technically is. Like I don't disagree with that, but yeah, I don't know. It has a bit of a different kind of vibe to it.
Yeah, no, for sure.
All right. Oh, actually, hang on. Before I wrap up, give me 20 seconds because I forgot in the Westworld discussion. I have to give a shout out to one moment in season 3. I can't believe I didn't mention it. Is when I said how much I love the Ed Harris Man in White transition, and I love how Ramin Djawadi has a goddamn heroic version of the Man in Black's theme in that moment. I loved it. Just had to say that. I would live in regret if I didn't mention it.
Oh yeah. Also that I love how they ended the series with Pink Floyd Dark Side.
Oh yeah, Brain Damage.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
cool.
Thank you very much, everyone, for listening this week. We appreciate your time. Fitzy, what are we doing next week?
We are doing Onward, the new Pixar movie. We're on a new movie, and
Oh my god.
it's on Disney Plus, pretty much. So yeah, excited.
Or if you don't
Shill to Disney and watch it.
Or if you don't want to support the despotic corporation that's slowly, taking over the industry, stream it.
Yeah.
Oof. Promoting illegal activity. Is that allowed?
I cut that out.
I won't. Thank you very much for tuning in to Cinema Effect again. Jane, Leon, thank you for your time.
Cheers.
Thank you.
We'll see you guys next week. Have a great rest of your week and goodbye.